There are a lot of extremely frustrating strategies to go against in Siege, many of which can seem nearly impossible to beat. However, in today's video, I'll be laying that idea to rest by showing you how to counter some of Siege's most hated strategies, the first of which being shield operators. Shield operators in Rainbow Six Siege have become extremely annoying over the past year or so. That is because of the recent shield rework and the nerf to impact grenades. The shield rework gave shield operators the ability to be able to sprint at you at extreme pace and to also reload behind the safety of their shield. All of this makes it a whole lot easier for a shield operator to get aggressive on you, especially if the enemy team brings a Finka on top of that. One of the best way to counter this strategy is to bring Lesion, Smoke, Goyo, and then just explosives. If you bring a Lesion and a shield operator steps on his goo mines, they'll be forced to pull the goo mine out eventually, or they'll just die to the damage. So you can wait for that shield operator to have to pull out that goo and kill them, or they'll have to back up far away from you so that they can pull the goo out safely. And then smoke grenades are strong because if the enemy team's bringing a Finka, it will deal exponentially more damage to a shield operator while a surge is active. So you can use smoke grenades to your advantage to force a shield operator to once again back up unless they want to take a crap ton of damage. And then Goyo is strong in the strategy for the same reason that Smoke is, because he can force the shield operator to fall back unless they want to have to walk through the fire. And then if you just bring impacts or nitro cells on your other two operators, then you'll have something in everyone's kit on your team to be able to deal damage or to be able to slow down a shield in some way. Now, another thing that you can do to counter shield operators as well is positioning an Oryx on tight hallways where the attackers intend to push. This will allow Oryx to Ramadash into a shield operator, knocking them over and then potentially getting him a free kill. However, it's risky because Oryx, while Ramadashing into a shield operator, can be shot by his teammates, and also if the enemy team sees you picking an Oryx, they'll likely be expecting you and be a whole lot more careful. And the last way to counter a shield operator that's probably the most effective is Clash, especially on bomb sites where there aren't a lot of outside windows or walls. Bringing Clash quite literally forces a shield operator to just turn the other way because he can't do anything about you standing in that hallway. Your shocks will slow them down significantly, deal damage to them, and it also allows you to relay a ton of information to your team about where the shield operator and his teammates are. Any of these three strategies can be effective for shield operators. However, I think the first strategy is the most effective since it's the most universal and allows every person on your team to be some form of a counter. Now, another pretty annoying strategy that's actually prevalent on the defense is bringing a ton of trap operators, bringing operators like Capcan, Fenrir, Lesion, and Malusi. The biggest ways to counter an enemy team that loves to bring trap operators like this is to bring a Twitch or a Brava and then IQ. Basically what you'll do is you'll have your IQ activate their scanner at the start of the round, and you'll have them scan around the places where you plan on entering the building. And you're going to have IQ call out the positions of any traps inside of the building. And then you're going to have your Twitch or your Brava to then destroy or hack any of the traps that IQ pointed out. This is an extremely effective strategy to deal with all of those annoying operators that we're all tired of dealing with. And to move back onto the attacking side, a strategy that I see many players complain about on a consistent basis is attacking teams that bring a ton of tracking operators. So Deimos, Dokkaebi, and Lion, or Deimos, Dokkaebi, and Jackal, or all four of them. This, depending on the map, can be an extremely devastating strategy because it allows the enemy team to get endless amounts of information on you, and it also makes it nearly impossible to roam. My favorite way to deal with this is to bring a Mute, a Vigil, and then a Doc or a Rook. The reason why you want to bring Mute is because Mute's jammers counters pretty much every tracking operator in the game. If one of your teammates is tracked by Deimos, they can walk into your Mute jammers, and then the Deimos scan will end. If a Dokkaebi calls your team, if your teammates walk into your Mute jammers, the call will completely end. And if a Lion activates his scan, your teammates can move while they're inside the radius of a Mute jammer. The only tracking operator that Mute doesn't counter is Jackal, but realistically, considering that he gets 3 out of 4 of them, he's definitely worth running against an enemy team that likes to abuse these ops. And then Vigil is strong for dealing with this because he counters Deimos and Lion. As long as Vigil has his ability active, Deimos will not see him with a scan, and neither will Lion. But the more interesting part of the strategy that I'm sure many of you are questioning is the Doc or Rook. The reason why you want to bring one of those two operators is because a lot of the time when the enemy team is bringing Deimos, they'll try to use their revolver to spam through the floor or the ceiling to try to kill you through soft surfaces. If you bring a Rook or especially a Doc, it'll make this a lot more difficult because with Rook, you're pretty much guaranteed to go down. And with Doc, you can revive yourself or your teammates that go down inside the bomb site from Deimos spamming them through the floor. This definitely isn't a requirement, but it does help a lot in my experience. And our next strategy that I'm sure many of you have experienced in your ranked games is something that I like to call utility overload. This is a defensive strategy where the enemy team will bring a ton of utility to try to waste a lot of your explosives. So they'll bring in a zombie and a castle, and then they'll bring Wamai and Jaeger on top of that to defend those pieces of utility. This can make you feel overwhelmed because it's really hard to get through those Wamai magnets and those Jaeger ADSs. And even if you can get through those nade denial operators, you still have to deal with the Azami and the castle barricades with explosives. So the easiest way to deal with this by far is to just bring a Flores. If you notice the enemy team is stacking a ton of utility like that, bringing Flores can be a game changer because you can just drive your drone straight at the utility and blow it up. This can allow you to avoid the time waster of having to burn through all those magnets and having to burn through all those ADSs. But it does have a huge downside, that being the fact that Flores' drones can be shot. So you do run the risk of the enemy team just shooting his drones before he's able to deal with that important utility. So if you don't want to have to risk that, the next way I'd recommend you dealing with this problem is to bring a Zofia, an Ash, and a ton of flashbangs. If you bring this combination, Zofia has 2 stun grenades, which can allow her to burn through ADSs and some of them on my magnets. She has 2 impact grenades that can allow her to destroy 2 pieces of utility. And then Ash has her 2 breaching rounds that can destroy 2 pieces of utility as well. And then you have the additional flashbangs on your other operators that help you burn through all those ADSs and Wamai magnets. I know this strategy can feel really overwhelming to go against, especially if you're a lower rank, but if you just bring one of these 2 strategies or you just combine them both together, you'll have a lot easier time dealing with it. And an annoying strategy that I've noticed getting a lot more traction on the attack recently is something that I like to call the nade spam strategy. Basically what this is the enemy team will bring a Ying and a Glaz and then a ton of other grenades like flashbangs and frag grenade. And they'll just try to overwhelm the bomb site so that way they can try to pull off a rush strategy on you. The easiest way to counter this is to bring these 5 operators: Warden, Jaeger, Wamai, Smoke, and Goyo. Warden will allow you to see through the smoke that the enemy team is deploying and to also see through any sort of flashbangs or Ying Candelas that are thrown into the site. Jaeger and Wamai will allow you to deny some of those smokes from even getting into the site in the first place. And then Smoke and Goyo will allow you to slow down the attack and stop them from just running into the site and taking advantage of those nades that they managed to get into the site. This kind of strategy from the attack is especially common on maps like Coastline and Border. So I'd recommend preemptively picking this lineup a lot on those maps, even on the first round, because a lot of times the attackers will bring out the strategy at the start of the match to catch you off guard. Another strategy that's popular on the attack, especially in more recent seasons, is the Grim and Amaru rush. Basically, the enemy team will have a Grim get on a window into the bomb site, open it up, and start spamming bees through the window. And then once those bees are activated, they'll have Amaru repel through the window and then try to go for a plant. This is especially common on Consulate and Cafe, but it can be an issue on a lot of maps, especially since Amaru can go up hatches as well. And so the way you're going to want to counter that is by bringing a Jaeger, a Wamai, a Mute, and a Frost. And what you're going to do is put frost mats on prominent windows where the attackers like to rush through, and then you're going to stack up Jaeger ADSs and Wamai magnets around them as well, so that way Grim can't just spam his bees through the window. And then the Mute Jammers are useful because if you get tracked by Grim's bees, if you walk into a Mute Jammer, the tracking will cease, making him a pretty hard counter to Grim. With these operators combined, it'll make the strategy basically impossible, and it'll shut it down immediately. The problem is these Grim and Amaru strategies typically come out when you least expect it. So if you can't bring a lineup in advance and you don't know the enemy team is going to be picking this, you can just make vert holes below the common windows that Amaru likes to repel in, and then when she repels in the window and tries to go for a plant, you can then just shoot her through the floor. You can also do this on default plant spots as well if the enemy team tries to do it through a hatch. Now, speaking of playing from below, something that can be extremely annoying to go against specifically on the attack is an enemy team that loves to nitro cell from below. This typically revolves around the enemy team bringing a Pulse and then Valkyrie or another operator with access to cameras, and they'll use the cardiac sensor and the cameras they place around the map to then nitro cell you through the floor below. The best ways to deal with this annoying strategy is to bring an IQ and then to bring a RAM. The reason you bring an IQ is because it allows you to see the pulse through the floor, which prevents him from catching you off guard, and it also allows you to see any pre-placed nitro cells that the enemy team tries to place down, so you can't be caught off guard by those. And the reason why RAM is important is because it allows you to play vertically while not being at risk of getting nitro celled. Since you aren't the one actually opening the holes, the chance of you getting nitro from below is a lot slimmer, and you can use the holes that your drones are making to then peek down on the defenders that are trying to nitro cell you from below. A great example of where this strategy can be the most useful is on Canal when you're pushing the basement bomb site, because a lot of time the enemy team will just sit inside that bomb site and just wait for you to walk in the building and just start letting their nitro cells rip. If you bring these 2 operators, they're gonna have a lot harder time doing so. However, if the defenders are trying to nitro cell you through the floor of the bomb site, this can be a little more complicated because you're not going to want to play vertically through the bomb site. You're going to want to instead push them directly. So in these situations, you're just going to want to bring a few tracking operators like Dokubi, Lion, or Jackal, and you're going to want to go below, find where the Pulse or the Valkyrie is below the bomb site, and then kill them before they're able to deny your plan. If you use either one of these strategies in the situation where it best applies, you'll be able to deny rank stars from being able to use the strategy against you ever again. Now, speaking of denial, something that can be really hard to go against is an enemy team that brings a ton of wall denial operators. So every round they're bringing a Cade, they're having a bandit trick, and they're bringing a tuber out. The best way to deal with situations like this this would be to play vertically. So if the enemy team's bomb site is on the top floor, you'd want to go below the bomb site and play vertically from below using operators like Buck. Or if the enemy team is playing on a middle floor or a bottom floor bomb site, you're going to want to play vertically from above. So that can be bringing a ram, a buck, a sledge, or even a fuse. It doesn't really matter. And the reason why you want to play vertically is because you can have your teammates drone into the bomb site, find out where the bandit is playing, or find where the cage charges are, and then you can have your vertical play operator open up a hole in the floor and then immediately destroy the utility. This also gives you the added benefit of being able to shoot off Tuberau charges off of the wall, because for a Tuberau to be able to freeze a wall, they have to throw the canister onto the wall, and you'll be able to see it through the vert holes and you can just shoot it off. Now, if you don't want to have to go through the effort of playing vertically, and the enemy team is using this strategy on a garage bomb site, you can instead bring an operator with flashbangs, an operator with nades or a capital, and a twitch. And then what you'll do is you'll go over to the drone hole leading into the bomb site, you'll spam flashbangs through the drone hole, and then you'll throw your frag grenade or shoot your firebolt into the drone hole. This will force the bandit or the cade that's cade tricking to get off the wall, and then you can send your twitch drone through the drone hole to then shoot any utility off the wall you need. This can be a huge time saver, especially if you play it right. However, it takes a lot of coordination, and it also requires the wall that you're trying to go for to have a drone hole next to it or to have a slight gap above it. Either way, both of these strategies are strong for dealing with this if you come up against it in your rank sessions. And the final strategy that we're going to be discussing in this video that seems to be pretty hated by a lot of the community is going up against Mira strategies. Mira strategies can be really tough to deal with because the defenders can set up a ton of head holes to make it basically impossible for you to enter the building without walking in the line of sight of a Mira window. There's a couple of main ways to deal with this. The first of which is to bring an ash or an ace and then bring some sort of burn like flashbangs. And then whenever you see the Mira window, you'll just have your person who brought the burn to throw their flashbangs in the bomb site or whatever they brought, and you'll have your ace or your ash use their gadget on the Mira window. This will destroy it in Ace's case or shatter it in Ash's case. But either way, it'll put that Mira window out of commission and make it a lot easier for you to push into the site. Additionally, if you notice the enemy team isn't bringing a mute, you can also counter a lot of Mira strategies by just bringing a twitch and sneaking a drone into the bomb site. And then when they least expect it, hopping on that drone and shocking their Mira window. And if you don't want to deal with all of that, you can also just play vertically with a buck and then shoot the Mira window through the floor or the roof. Any one of these four strats can help you deal with a Mira. However, you still need to be wary while you're doing it because you can very easily die if you're not being careful. Anyways, hopefully you guys found today's video on how to beat Siege's most hated strategies useful. If you did, I make Siege content just like this twice a week, so go subscribe to the channel and follow me on Twitter if you don't want to miss the next upload. Now, if you want to watch another video just like this one, a video will be popping up on your screen right now that I'm sure you'll enjoy. I'll see you next time, friends, and peace.